Welcome back to Storytime with Belle, everyone. When we last left off, Inigo Montoya and the Man in Black had an amazing duel at the Cliffs of Insanity. Inigo had lost, and he expected to die, but the Man in Black had told Inigo that he was an artist with the sword and he could not kill such a man. Vizzini and Fezzik had taken Princess Buttercup off to the Gilder frontier in hopes of murdering her and starting a great war between Florin and Gilder. Now we are about to see what happens when the Man in Black faces Fezzik. So, Chapter 5, The Announcements, Part 3, Fezzik. Turkish women are famous for the size of their babies. The only happy newborn ever to weigh over 24 pounds upon entrance was the product of a southern Turkish union. Turkish hospital records list a total of 11 children who weighed over 20 pounds at birth, and 95 more who weighed between 15 and 20. Now, all of these 106 cherubs did what babies usually do at birth. They lost 3 or 4 ounces, and it took them the better part of a week before they got it totally back. More accurately, 105 of them lost weight after they were born. Not Fezzik. His first afternoon, he gained a pound. Since he weighed but 15, since his mother gave birth 2 weeks early, the doctors weren't unduly concerned. It's because he came 2 weeks too soon, they explained to Fezzik's mother. That explains it. Actually, of course, it didn't explain anything. But whenever doctors are confused by something, which is really more frequently than any of us would do well to think about, they always snatch at something in the vicinity in case, and that explains it. If Fezzik's mother had come late, they would have said, "Well, you came late. That explains it." Or, "Well, it was raining during delivery. This added weight is simply moisture. That explains it." A healthy baby doubles his birth weight in about 6 months and triples it in a year. When Fezzik was a year old, he weighed 85 pounds. Oof. He wasn't fat, understand. He looked like a perfect, normal, strong, 85-pound kid. Not all that normal, actually. He was pretty hairy for a 1-year-old. By the time he reached kindergarten, he was ready to shave. He was the size of a normal man at this time, and all the other children made his life miserable. At first, naturally, they were scared to death, even though Fezzik looked fierce. But once they found out he was a chicken, they weren't about to let that opportunity like that get away. "Bully, bully," they taunted Fezzik during the morning yogurt break. "I'm not," Fezzik would say out loud. To himself, he would go, "Woolly, woolly." He would never dare to consider himself a poet, because he wasn't anything like that. He just loved rhymes. Anything he said out loud, he rhymed inside. Sometimes the rhymes made sense. Sometimes they didn't. Fezzik never cared much about sense. All that ever mattered was the sound. "Coward! Coward! I'm not!" "Then fight!" one of them would say, and would swing all he had and hit Fezzik in the stomach, confident that all Fezzik would do was go, "Oof," and stand there, because he never hit back, no matter what you did to him. Oof. Another swing. Another. A good stiff punch to the kidneys, maybe. Maybe a kick in the knee. It would go on like that until Fezzik would burst into tears and run away. One day at home, Fezzik's father called. "Come here." Fezzik, as always, obeyed. "Dry your tears," his mother said. 2 children had beaten him very badly just before. He did what he could to stop crying. "Fezzik, this can't go on," his mother said. "They must stop picking on you." "Picking on you? I don't mind so much," Fezzik said. "Well, you should mind," his father said. He was a carpenter with big hands. "Come on outside. I'm going to teach you how to fight. Please, I don't want... Obey your father." They trooped out to the backyard. "Make a fist," his father said. Fezzik did his best. His father looked at his mother, then at the heavens. "He can't even make a fist," his father said. "He's trying. He's only 6. Don't be so hard on him." Fezzik's father cared for his son greatly, and he tried to keep his voice soft so Fezzik wouldn't burst out crying. But it wasn't easy. "Honey," Fezzik's father said. Look, when you make a fist, you don't put your thumb inside your fingers. You keep your thumb outside your fingers. So he's basically saying, you don't do this, you do this. Because if you put your thumb inside your fingers and you hit somebody, what will happen is you break your thumb. Oh, maybe it's like, he's talking about like this and not like this. I'm not sure, I've never been in a fight before. Honey, Fezzik's father said, look, when you make a fist, you don't put your thumb inside your fingers. You put your thumb outside your fingers, because if you keep your thumb inside your fingers and you hit someone, what will happen is you'll break your thumb. And that isn't good, because the whole object when you hit somebody is to hurt the other guy, not yourself. I guess that makes sense, but again, I've never been into a fight. I prefer to fight with words. Flirt. I don't want to hurt anybody, Daddy. I don't want you to hurt anybody, Fezzik. But if you know how to take care of yourself, and they know you know, they won't bother you anymore. Father, I don't mind so much. Well, we do, his mother said. They shouldn't pick on you, Fezzik, just because you needed a shave. Back to the fist, his father said. Have we learned how? Fezzik made a fist again, this time with the thumb on the outside. He's a natural learner, his mother said. She cared for him as greatly as his father did. Now hit me, Fezzik's father said. No, I don't want to do that. Hit your father, Fezzik. Maybe he doesn't know how to hit, Fezzik's father said. Maybe not. Fezzik's mother shook her head sadly. Watch, honey, Fezzik's father said. See? Simple. You just make a fist like you already know, and then pull your arm a little and aim for where you want it to land and let go. Show your father what a natural learner you are, Fezzik's mother said. Make a punch. Hit him a good one. Fezzik made a punch toward his father's arm. Fezzik's father stared at the heavens in frustration. You came close to your arm, Fezzik's mother said quickly before her son's face began to cloud. That was a very good first start, Fezzik. Tell him what a good start he made, she said to her husband. It was in the right general direction, Fezzik's father managed. If only I had been standing 1 yard further west, it would have been perfect. I'm very tired, Fezzik said. When you learn so much so fast, you get so tired. I do anyway. Please, may I be excused? Not yet, Fezzik's mother said. Honey, please hit me. Really hit me. Try. You're a smart boy. Hit me a good one, Fezzik's father begged. Tomorrow, Daddy, I promise. Tears began to form. Crying's not going to work, Fezzik, his father exploded. It's not going to work on me, and it's not going to work on your mother, and you're going to do what I say, and what I say is you're going to hit me, and if it takes all night, we're going to stand right here, and if it takes all week, we're going to stand right here, and if... Splat! This was before emergency wards. Well, this was before emergency wards. And that was too bad. At least for Fezzik's father, because there was no place to take him after Fezzik's punch landed, except to his own bed, where he remained with his eyes shut for a day and a half, except for when the milkman came to fix his broken jaw. This was not before doctors, but in Turkey, they hadn't gotten around to claiming the bone business yet. Milkmen were still in charge of bones. Logic that milk was good for the bones, so who would know more about broken bones than a milkman? When Fezzik's father was able to open his eyes as much as he wanted, they had a family talk, the three of them. You're very strong, Fezzik, his father said. Actually, that was not strictly true. What his father meant was, you're very strong, Fezzik. What came out was more like zzz. Ever since the milkman had wired his jaw together, all he could manage was the letter Z. But he had a very impressive face, and his wife understood him perfectly. He says you're very strong, Fezzik. I thought I was, Fezzik answered. Last year, I hit a tree when I was very mad. I knocked it down. It was a small tree, but still. I figured that it had to mean something. He says he's giving up being a carpenter, Fezzik. Oh, no, Fezzik said. You'll be all well soon, Daddy. The milkman practically promised me. He wants to give up being a carpenter, Fezzik. But what will he do? Fezzik's mother answered this one herself. She and her husband had been up half the night agreeing on the decision. He's going to be your manager, Fezzik. Fighting is the national sport of Turkey. We're going to be rich and famous. But Mommy, Daddy, I don't like fighting. Fezzik's father reached out and gently patted his son's knee. Zzz, he said. It's going to be wonderful, his mother translated. Fezzik only burst into tears. They had his first professional match in the village of Sandiki on a steaming hot Sunday. Fezzik's parents had a terrible time getting him into the ring. They were absolutely confident of a victory because they had worked very hard. They had taught Fezzik for 3 solid years before they mutually agreed he was ready. Fezzik's father handled tactics and ring strategy, and his mother was in charge of diet and training, and they had never been happier. Fezzik had never been more miserable. He was scared and frightened and terrified, all rolled into one. No matter how they reassured him, he refused to enter the arena, because he knew something, even though outside he looked 20, and his mustache was already coming along nicely. Inside, he was still a 9-year-old who liked rhyming things. No, he said, I won't, and you can't make me. After all we've slaved for these years, his father said. His job's almost as good as new now. He'll hurt me, Fezzik said. Life is pain, his mother said. Anybody that says different is selling something. Please, I'm not ready. I'll forget the holds. I'm not graceful, and I fall down a lot. It's true. It was. Their only real fear was, were they rushing him? When the going gets tough, the tough get going, Fezzik's mother said. Get ready, Fezzik, his father said. Fezzik stood his ground. Listen, we're not going to threaten you, Fezzik's parents said, more or less together. We all care for each other too much to pull any of that stuff. If you don't want to fight, nobody's going to force you. We'll just leave you alone forever. Fezzik's picture of hell was being alone forever. He had told them that when he was 5. They marched into the arena, then to face the champion of Sandiki. He had been champion for 11 years. Since he was 24, he was very graceful and wide and 6 feet in height, only half a foot less than Fezzik. Fezzik didn't stand a chance. He was too clumsy. He kept falling down or getting his holds on backwards, so they weren't holds at all. The champion of Sandiki toyed with him. Fezzik was getting thrown down or falling down or tumbling down or stumbling down. He always got up and tried again, but the champion of Sandiki was much too fast for him and too clever and much, much too experienced. The crowd laughed and ate baklava and enjoyed the whole spectacle until Fezzik got his arms around the champion of Sandiki. The crowd grew very quiet then. Fezzik lifted him up. No noise. Fezzik squeezed and squeezed. That's enough now, Fezzik's father said. Fezzik laid the man down. Thank you, he said. You're a wonderful fighter, and I was lucky. The ex-champion of Sandiki kind of grunted. Raise your hands. You're the winner, his mother reminded. Fezzik stood in the middle of the ring with his hands raised. Boo, said the crowd. Animal, ape, gorilla, boo! They did not linger long in Sandiki. As a matter of fact, it wasn't very safe for them to linger long anywhere. They fought the champion of Isper. Boo! The champion of Samal. Boo! They fought in Bolu. They fought in Zil. Boo! I don't care what anyone says, Fezzik's mother told him one wintry afternoon. You're my son, and you're wonderful. It was gray and dark, and they were hot-footing it out of Constantinople just as fast as they could, because Fezzik had just demolished their champion before most of the crowd was even seated. I'm not wonderful, Fezzik said. They're right to insult me. I'm too big. Whenever I fight, it looks like I'm picking on somebody. Maybe, Fezzik's father began a little hesitantly. Maybe. Fezzik, if you just possibly sort of lose a few fights, they might not yell at us so much. His wife whirled to the husband. The boy is 11, and already you want him to throw fights? Nothing like that. No, Don't get all excited. Maybe if he didn't look like he was suffering a little, they'd let up on us. I'm suffering, Fezzik said. He was. Let it show a little more. I'll try, Daddy. That's a good boy. I can't help being strong. It's not my fault. I don't even exercise. I think it's time to head for Greece, Fezzik's father said. We've beaten everyone in Turkey who will fight us, and the athletics began in Greece. No one appreciates talent like the Greeks. I just hit it when they go boo, Fezzik said. He did. Now his private picture of hell was being left alone with everyone going boo at him forever. They'll love you in Greece, Fezzik said. They fought in Greece. Arg! Arg is Greek for boo. Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Romania. Boo! They tried the Orient. The jiu-jitsu champion of Korea, the karate champion of Siam, the kung fu champion of India. It's noted arg. In Mongolia, his parents died. We've done everything we can for you, Fezzik. Good luck, they said, and they were gone. It was a terrible thing. A plague had swept everything before it. Fezzik would have died too, only naturally he never got sick. Alone, he continued on, across the Gobi Desert, hitching rides, sometimes with passing caravans. And it was there that he learned how to make them stop booing. Fight groups. It all began in a caravan on the Gobi, when the caravan head said, I'll bet my camel drivers can take you on. There were only 3 of them, so Fezzik said, fine. He said, and he did, and he won naturally. And everybody seemed happy. Fezzik was thrilled. He never fought just one person again if it was possible. For a while, he traveled from place to place, battling gangs for local charities. But his business head was never much. And besides, doing things alone was even less appealing to him, now that he was in his late teens than it had been before. He joined a traveling circus. All around, the performers grumbled at him because they said he was eating more than his share of the food. So he stayed pretty much to himself, except when it came to his work. But then, one night when Fezzik had just turned 20, he got the shock of his life. Booing was back again. He could not believe it. He had just squeezed 6 men into submission, cracked the heads of 6 more. What do they want from me? The truth was simple. He had gotten too strong. He would never measure himself, but somebody whispered he must be over 7 feet tall, and he would never step on a scale, but people claimed he weighed 400. And not only that, he was quick now. All the years of experience had made him almost inhuman. He knew all the tricks, could counter all the holds. Animal! Ape! Gorilla! Boo! That night, alone in his tent, Fezzik wept. He was a freak. Still, he loved rhymes. A 2-eyed cyclops. Eye drops, like the tears that were dropping from his half-closed eyes. But the next morning, he had gotten control of himself. At least he still had his circus friends around him. That week, the circus fired him. The crowds were booing them now, and the fat lady threatened to walk out, and the midgets were fuming, and that was it for Fezzik. This was in the middle of Greenland, and everybody knows. And as everybody knows, Greenland then, as now, is the loneliest place on Earth. In Greenland, there was only 1 person for every 20 miles of real estate. Probably the circus was pretty stupid taking a booking there, but that wasn't the point. The point was that Fezzik was alone, in the loneliest place in the world, just sitting there on a rock, watching the circus pull away. He was still sitting there the day when Vizzini, the Sicilian, found him. Vizzini flattered him, promised to keep the booze away. Vizzini needed Fezzik, but half as much as Fezzik needed Vizzini. As long as Vizzini was around, you couldn't be alone. Whatever Vizzini said, Fezzik did. And if it meant crushing the head of the black man in black, so be it. But not by ambush. Not the coward's way. Not unsportsmanlike. His parents had always taught him to go by the rules. Fezzik stood in shadow, a great rock tight in his great hand. He could hear the footsteps of the man in black coming nearer, nearer. Fezzik leapt from behind and threw the rock with incredible power and perfect accuracy. It smashed into a boulder a foot from the face of the man in black. "I did that on purpose," Fezzik said, picking up another rock, holding it ready. "I didn't have to miss." "I believe you," the man in black said. They stood facing each other on a narrow mountain path. "Now what happens?" asked the man in black. "We face each other as God intended," Fezzik said. "No tricks, no weapons, skill against skill alone." "You mean you'll put your rock down, and I'll put down my sword, and we'll try to kill each other like civilized people? Is that it?" "If you'd rather, I can kill you now," Fezzik said gently. He raised the rock to throw. "I'm giving you a chance." "So you are, and I accept it," said the man in black, and he began to take off the sword and scabbard. "Although, frankly, I think the odds are slightly in your favor at hand-fighting." "I'll tell you what I tell everybody," Fezzik explained. "I cannot help being the biggest and strongest. It's not my fault." "I'm not blaming you," said the man in black. "Then let's get to it then," Fezzik said, and he dropped the rock and got into fighting position, watching as the man in black slowly moved toward him. For a moment, Fezzik felt almost wistful. This was clearly a good fellow, even if he killed a Nico. He didn't complain or try or beg or bribe. He just accepted his fate. No complaining, nothing like that. Obviously a criminal of a character. Was he a criminal? Was he a criminal, though, Fezzik wondered. Surely the mask would indicate that. Or was it worse than that? Was he disfigured? His face burned away by acid, perhaps? Or perhaps born hideous? "Why do you wear a mask and hood?" Fezzik asked. "I think everybody will in the near future," was the man in black's reply. "They're terribly comfortable." If only the man in black knew. They faced each other on the mountain path. There was a moment's pause, then they engaged. Fezzik led the man in black fiddle around for a bit, tested the man's strength, which was considerable for someone who wasn't a giant. He let the man in black feint and dodge and try a hold here, a hold there. Then, when he was quite sure the man in black would not go to his maker embarrassed, Fezzik locked his arms tight around. Fezzik lifted and squeezed and squeezed. Then he took the remains of the man in black, snapped him back one way, snapped him the other, cracked him with one hand on the neck, the other on the spine base, locked his legs up, rolled his limp arms around, then tossed the entire bundle of what had once been human into a nearby crevice. That was the theory, anyway. In fact, what happened was this. Fezzik lifted and squeezed, and the man in black slipped free. Thought Fezzik. That certainly was a surprise. I thought for sure I had him. "You're very quick," Fezzik complimented. "And a good thing, too," said the man in black. Then they engaged again. This time, Fezzik did not give the man in black a chance to fiddle. He just grabbed him, swung him around his head once, twice, smashed his skull into the nearby boulder, pounded him, pummeled him, gave him a final squeeze for good measure, and tossed the remains of what had once been alive into a nearby crevice. Those were his intentions, anyway. In actuality, he never even got through the grabbing part with much success, because no sooner had Fezzik's great hands reached out than the man in black dropped and spun and twisted and was loosened free and still quite alive. "I can't understand the thing that's happening," Fezzik thought. Could I be losing my strength? Could there be mountain disease that takes your strength? There was a desert disease that took my parents' strength. That must be it. I must have caught a plague. But if that is it, why isn't he weak? So I must still be strong. It has to be something else. Now, what could it be? Suddenly he knew. He had not fought against one man in so long. He had all but forgotten how. He had been fighting big groups and gangs and punches for so many years that the idea of having a single opponent was slow in making itself known to him, because you fought them entirely differently. When there were 12 against you, you made certain moves, tried certain holds, acted in certain ways. When there was but one, you had to completely readjust yourself. Quickly now, Fezzik went back through time. How had he fought the champion of Sandiki? He flashed through the fight in his mind, then reminded himself of all the other victories against other champions, the men from Isper, and Samal, and Bolu, and Zil. He remembered fleeing Constantinople because he had beaten their champion so quickly, so easily. Yes, Fezzik thought, of course. And he suddenly readjusted his style to what it once had been. And by that time, the man in black had him by the throat. The man in black was riding him, and his arms were locked around Fezzik's windpipe, one in front, one behind. Fezzik reached back, but the man in black was hard to grasp. Fezzik could not get his arms around his back and dislodge the enemy. Fezzik ran at a boulder, and at the last moment, spun around so the man in black received the main force of the charge. It was a terrible jolt. Fezzik knew it was. But the grip of his windpipe grew even tighter. Fezzik charged the boulder again, spun, and again he knew the power of the man in black had taken. But still the grip remained. Fezzik clawed at the man in black. He pounded his giant fists against them. But now he had no air. Fezzik continued to struggle. He could feel a hollow in his legs now. He could see the world beginning to pale. But he did not give up. He was the mighty Fezzik, lover of rhymes, and you did not give up no matter what. Now the hollowness was in his arms, and the world was snowing. Fezzik went to his knees. He pounded still, but feebly. He fought still, but his blows would not have harmed the child. No air. There was no more air. There was no more anything. Not for Fezzik, not in this world. I am beaten. I am going to die, he thought, just before he fell onto the mountain path. He was only half wrong. There is an instant between unconsciousness and death, and as the giant pitched onto the rocky path, the instant happened. And just before it happened, the man in black let go. He staggered to his feet, leaned against the boulder until he could walk. Fezzik lay sprawled, faintly breathing. The man in black looked around for a rope to secure the giant. Gave up the search almost as soon as he began. What good were ropes against strength like this? He would simply snap them. The man in black made his way to where he'd dropped his sword. He'd put it back on. 2 down, and the hardest one to go.